Dead as a Doornail, Book 6 of the Stan Kraychik Mysteries. Author, Grant Michaels. Publisher, St. Martin's Press, New York. Narrator, Eric Aust. Chapter 32. The display window for domestic tech looks completely different this afternoon. Thorin Hightower has removed every one of the two-dimensional bodybuilder mannequins that formerly graced the area. When I go inside, I see that he's done the same thing in there. "Where are all the boys?" I ask. Thorin explains. "I reconsidered my marketing strategy and decided that the products I sell deserve to be judged on their own merits of quality and design and not by my artwork." In other words, he's no longer using sex to sell household goods. "But didn't you just put those displays up the other day?" "Yes," says Thorin, "and it was a mistake. I look around the store and I'd disagree without the muscle-bound mannequins adorning the merchandise and enkindling your own fantasies of a perfect home life. Domestic tech looks like any other appliance store, but with logarithmic prices." I ask, "Were they too controversial?" "No," says Thorin. "They just didn't work." "Maybe they sent the wrong message to people?" "Look," says Thorin, "all I did was change my mind and take the displays down. You're reading things into it." "How about those photos you took at my place? Have you changed your mind about them too?" Thorin says, "I have no regrets about any of my work. I pick up an imported hairdryer that boasts a digital temperature readout in benign degrees, rather than naked truths like careful or too hot or fire." I say, "That was some close call you had with the police." "Close call," says Thorin. "Weren't they holding you on suspicion of Timmy's death?" Thorin becomes superbly cool. "I don't know who told you that," he says, "but no one was holding me. By the very nature of homicide investigations, the police are obliged to question citizens. For our part, we have the right to remain silent. Since I have nothing to hide, I cooperated with them." "But you had a lawyer present, right?" "Were you there?" says Thorin, turning on me. "Not quite. I meant that you knew enough to have a lawyer with you." "Yes," he says, "especially after last time." "Last time?" "That drug rap." Thorin lowers the lids on his sparkling eyes. "Look," he says, "I really don't appreciate you coming in here and harassing me, but I'll tolerate it for now, because I know you're working for the cops. Sorry to break it to you, man, but your cover stinks. Still, as long as you're out on the street bothering the rest of us, I know the investigation is still active. That means whatever I tell you will make its way back to the cops, and maybe something will come of it." "How can you disillusion a guy who believes that?" Myron, too. Both of them really think I'm a dick. Thorin says, "See, I know Timmy's death was no accident, and I want to know who did it." I say, "What if it's Selena?" He says, "Selena didn't kill Timmy." "How can you be sure?" "Because I know her." "How did she feel about your friendship with Timmy?" "It was kind of an odd thing, wasn't it, for you to be so close to a young gay man?" Thorin speaks slowly and distinctly in case English is not my native language. "Timmy and I were not sexually involved." "What about Chip Holton, then?" "What about him?" "Do you like him?" I say. "Like," says Thorin. "I've heard that straight guys sometimes get feeling so close to each other that they wonder about taking their friendship beyond feelings." Thorin says, "Do you think everything comes down to sex?" "It's pretty basic," I say. "Some people can get beyond it," says Thorin. "You mean celibacy?" "No," says Thorin. "I mean trust. Selena and I build our life on trust, which is something you obviously don't know much about." "Who met Timmy first, you or your wife?" "Why?" says Thorin. I tell him, "Selena said she wanted my property for Timmy." "For Timmy?" Thorin's words come too quickly. "She told you that?" he says. "Yes." Thorin says, "It's true that Timmy did want that house, but Selena wasn't his agent. I don't see how she could be." "Why?" "She wanted that place for herself." for herself, I say, or for the guineas? I don't know who the client was, says Thorne. Or did she want it for your budding porn business? It is not porn. Your art, then. He says, I don't need to own a piece of property to do my work. Not when you can use someone else's, Thorne says. Besides, Selena didn't know about those photos until, well, not until all this happened. And the fact is, Thorne grins, my darling Serena would never buy that house for me. She has a client list a mile long, which must have made it difficult for you to get a copy of it to Timmy. You have all the answers, don't you? Not quite, I say. Not the ones that count. Do you know why Tim wanted my house? Thorne says, what does that matter now? It matters if he wanted the property for someone else. Like, for instance, says Thorne. Like Angie, I say. The hairdresser, he says. I don't think Timmy would buy a house for her. They were friends, not a couple. Maybe in their own way. Tim and Angie were as close as you and Selena are, and who knows? Maybe that closeness bothered you, and you had to do something about it. No, says Thorne, you're just lashing out now. What about Chip, then? He wants to start a restaurant. Maybe he was trying to get Tim instead. You think Chip approached Timmy? Why not? I say, he's very ambitious. Thorne says, but they never even met each other. Are you sure? I say. Why, says Thorne. What are you saying? I tell him, you ask Chip the next time you see him. You ask him about the last time he saw Timmy. You might be surprised at what he tells you. Thorne says, why are you always looking for something dirty? Because the truth is often strewn with people's dirt. Thorne says, and you think by lashing out as people, you'll hear the truth. Maybe you should learn to be a little more generous. Thorne shakes his head in exasperation. Then he sits down. Maybe if I tell you what really happened with Selena and that property, then maybe you'll see that you're completely wrong. Every time someone says they're going to tell me what really happened, things get more complicated. Still, I might as well hear Thorne's version. I'm listening, I say. Thorne begins. When Selena handled the sale of that property to SCCA, part of the deal she made with them, she was trying to be a good neighbor, you know. Conscientious. Community-oriented, that kind of thing. Understand? Selena, Thorne says, like I said, you really ought to give people more credit than you do. Anyway, part of the deal she made was that whichever company got the contract to renovate the place, they would have to hire a certain number of bonded gay workers on the site. It was a community awareness kind of thing, to hire gay construction workers to work on a gay-owned building. Selena thought she was doing something good. Anyway, it was no surprise when the Gardenias got the bid. Okay, I say. So the Gardenias got the contract. Right, says Thorne. But then they hemmed and hawed about the gay part of the deal. They wanted the people they already knew. They weren't in business to support some kind of gay affirmative action. But Selena put herself on the line for the gays, and she finally convinced the Gardenias that it would be good for public relations, especially in this neighborhood. Then the accident happened. Yes, says Thorne, and as far as the Gardenias were concerned, Timmy was guilty. Even though the court said, I know what the court said, snaps Thorne. How did Selena handle the incident? What do you mean? Whose side was she on? My darling Selena was all business as usual. She believed the Gardenias partly blamed her for Tony's death, since she was the one who convinced them to do the goodwill toward gays. So she felt she owed them something in return. I don't know about that, says Thorne, but she certainly wanted to stay in their good graces. They're an important ally when you're dealing real estate. So she turned against Timmy. Thorne nods. What, that must have been difficult for you. What could I do, he says. When it came to choosing between Selena and Timmy, well, I couldn't make a choice. I was on both sides. But Selena took care of that too. By turning against Timmy, she turned against me. Has it occurred to you that she might have repaid the Gardenias' loss with Timmy? Thorne smiles slightly. You're trying to talk, honey, but the message is bitter, baby, sure. He says, at first I thought Selena might have killed Timmy, but then I realized killing him wouldn't get her anything. Besides, Selena just doesn't feel like a killer. Feel, I say. That's my kind of technique. I live with Selena, says Thorne, and I've lived with killers too. Maybe there's a side of her you don't know about. I sure hope that's true, says Thorne, and he allows a tiny smile. You need a little mystery to keep a marriage alive. But the fact is, I say, Selena knew where to find Timmy that morning. If she heard that message on his machine, all she had to do was show up, surprise him, and give him a push. A push, says Thorne. Push him down the stairs. That's what broke his neck. He died of a broken neck, according to the police. I say, why? Thorne squirms uncomfortably. I heard it was something else. From whom? Thorne says, maybe I'm just remembering wrong. Now that I think of it, they did say that Timmy fell. Since when do the police tell a murder suspect anything? One thing I do know, he says, it wasn't my Selena who pushed him. I asked Thorne why he took that drug rap for Selena. He says there were many reasons. I already had a record and Selena didn't. And at the time she was making money and I was out of work. But the simple truth is, beauty will be served. A beauty, I say. Just look at her, says Thorne. I have. What about love? Love, he says. What is love when someone looks like Selena? Good question. I say, is that how it was with Timmy too? No, says Thorne. That was different. I told you, it wasn't physical with him. So that was love. After a moment, Thorne says softly, yes, for me, Timmy was love. The front door opens suddenly and Selena enters the store. Isn't that sweet, she says. Two buddy boys having a chat. Then she says to Thorne, I hope he's here to pay you for that shipment. It doesn't matter if the contractor is dead now. That order is a make-or-break deal for you. Thorne, you get the money or you know what. Yes, says Thorne, I know, but the contract never got signed. Where is it, she says. Thorne says, last I knew, Timmy had it. Selena says to me, do you have the contract? Which one? I say. The prenuptials between you and me? That's locked away in your file cabinet. Selena says to Thorne, what are you waiting for? Why don't you find that contract and have him sign it? Or are you more interested in trading the dead redhead for a live one? I remind her I'm not a redhead today. When Thorne looks up at her, his eyes are wet. Selena says to me, and if you're not buying anything, would you please leave my husband alone? I say, I believe this is Thorne's store. Selena spits out the words, and I believe you're wrong. Thorne gives a sigh of resignation and says, the place belongs to her. His voice is spiritless. If it's got a door and windows on it, my lovely Selena probably owns it. She probably charges your rent, too. Selena says, what we do to each other is none of your business. Are you leaving now, or do I call the police? Have you got Lieutenant Branco's hotline memorized? She goes to the telephone on Thorne's counter. I tell her, cool your rotors, doll. You've got this thing about you. Calling the cops on me. I'm going now to see. I've got an appointment anyway. Outside domestic tech, I realize that except for some minor inventive ornaments, Thorne's story is pretty much a de capo repeat of Selena's area, but with embellishments. Smart accomplices usually do that. Plant little inconsistencies to keep their stories believable. Though Thorne did stray a bit from the original three, almost into another whole key. Like, for example, why did he think Tim's death was not from a broken neck? Did he see the autopsy report? Is it possible that Thorne is undercover? That simple answer is still evading me. I guess I'm still not looking in the wrong place. I head deep into the deepest part of the South End, where I really do have an appointment. Yesterday I arranged that introductory workout with Chip Holton at the South End Gnosiological Society. I'm about to enter the hallowed realm of the truly fit, the buffed, and the body conscious. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time. and being true to their values.